that guy shows up to measure that.
Is that a custom?
Yeah. And then after that, it's...
Good evening. I'd like to call to order a City Council workshop, February 4th, 2015, approximately 6:50 p.m., and to interview the board applicant. At this time, Doug Glass, thank you for applying. And at this time, if you please tell a little bit about yourself, and then what we will do is the board will ask you some questions. Okay?
Is this on?
It is on. If you please speak into it. Thank you.
I moved here from Virginia, my wife and I, in August of 2013. Our combined family, we have seven children, 20 grandchildren. All of them, fortunately, live well away from us, so we don't have to babysit a lot. I'm a retired sergeant from the California Highway Patrol. I spent 33 years doing that. I also retired from the Air Force Reserve as a Chief Master Sergeant. I did quite a bit of planning for the Highway Patrol. In fact, I wrote the earthquake plan for the Arrowhead area of the CHP. And I did a lot of planning with the Air Force, various sundry operations and that sort of thing, or assisted it. And I live in Montecito.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming the other night. We had a very good meeting.
Yeah, it's very good.
Thank you. Questions, who would like to start?
Let Steve start.
I was going to say, I have no questions.
Great.
I can start. Doug, it was nice meeting you the other night at the Montecito meeting, and just looking at your experience here, I'm not sure which of the boards we have openings on right now, but what is your number one preference on the sheet we have is the Code Enforcement Board, then Comprehensive Planning, and Police Officer, Firefighters Retirement, and Planning and Zoning Advisory. Those were the way to
put a preference on one, I guess, Code Enforcement and the Retirement Board for the police and firefighters.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions, Lorraine?
Yeah, you indicate that the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board is your second choice.
Yes, I would do that. I've had experience with it, that's why.
Tell us about that.
Well, with the Highway Patrol, I wrote the earthquake plan for the Arrowhead area, which is just east of Los Angeles in the San Bernardino Mountains. And in fact, it was used extensively when they had the large earthquake. That was about 5 years after I wrote the plan.
Okay.
I also wrote several different plans for the Air Force Reserve for operations, deployments, maintenance, operations, and that sort of thing.
Are you familiar with our comprehensive plan?
I've looked at it. I can't say that I'm extremely familiar with it, but I've looked at it.
And are you familiar with what the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board does?
Well, they make determinations on how the best way is to spend funds and make recommendations to the council. They have no veto power, so to speak.
Okay, the Comprehensive Planning Board, Advisory Board, is the board that does the big picture, long-term planning for the city. What do we want to be like 20 years from now, 10 years from now, or whatever? All of our other boards are looking at more immediate issues. We need people on the Comprehensive Planning Board who are capable of this big picture visioning, which is really what it is. And does that sound like something that would interest you, as opposed to, say, you've also checked the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board? That deals with issues right now in terms of our land development regulations, and that, that's it, the land development regulations, and amending them or ensuring that our code says what it needs to say under Florida law. So with those two very brief descriptions, which of those two boards would be of more interest to you?
I think probably the long-range planning, because I did quite a bit of that.
Okay.
And that's an important issue.
Tell me what you like about Satellite Beach.
Probably a shorter list to tell you what I don't like. And I don't think that list exists. I wish my house was a little bit closer to the beach. I've been very impressed with everything I've seen here. It's a very, very fine community, very functioning government. nice police department, which I'm very interested in, a good fire department, good weather, I don't know what anybody could ask for.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question more. Doug, just one question. What do you see over the next 5 years as the biggest challenge that the city may have in front of it?
Probably like any government, money, revenue,
Okay.
and ways to raise it, and without taxing people to death. I think the prudent use of the financial assets that are available is a key figure.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
On the boards, code enforcement at this time does not have an opening, so Comprehensive Plan Advisory Board does, and with your permission, we mark that as your number one choice.
That's fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Any further questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Doug, like I explained to you before, it's an agenda item. It's farther down in our packet. You're more than welcome to stay. If not an issue, we'll contact you after the meeting.
No, I would stay, but I have other plans for the evening.
Right.
I didn't know that it was going to be late in the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any further business? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. We'll start the council meeting in approximately 5 minutes. Good evening. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach, February 4th, 2015, approximately 7 p.m. Please join Councilman Osmer for a moment of silence and the pledge.
All rise for a moment of silence, please. And the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are going to adjust our agenda slightly, and we are going to go from 2 to 6 and 7. And 6 is the recognition of long-standing businesses in the city. So I will do that now. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Lenore passed a certificate of appreciation for businesses to me today, and I started reading it. And I'll read it because all of them are the same except for some of the years and, of course, the names. But I started reading it, and it became real obvious that it meant a lot more than just the business that they've had here in this town. We have great people, great families that are in these businesses. They have been the mainstay in our community for a tremendous amount of years here. They helped in Little League sports, helped us acquire the beach. Publix has helped us in every aspect in the police department and during emergencies, and founding families of our town. So to me, when I got it, it's a lot more than just being in business in our town. And what it says is, in recognition of your relationship with the City of Satellite Beach as a local business owner who has consistently provided excellent value and service to our residents, we are grateful for your long-standing role in our community, awarded by the City Council of Satellite Beach the 4th day of February 2015. Well, I don't think that really says enough. So I'm going to take each individual ones. And first, Zena McLean. Funny thing is, I don't remember when I didn't know most of these people. So, Zena has been in business for 40 years in our town, with the talk of the town. But her family is really one of the founding members of our community. And she's been a great supporter of our town from day one. And through everything we've been through, Zena is always there to help us in any way in which she can. And for appreciation for everything, thank you. The next one, More Than a Trophy Shop. Very much a great family, and they're all here. They even got out and dressed. I'll be here tonight on time. Really great. So I was told I couldn't introduce him as Mr. Carlson because that's what I always refer to him as, but I'm going to refer to him as what they asked me to, Big Al. Big Al has been in our city for as long as I can ever remember. He's participated in every sporting event with his children and the girls softball, and helped in numerous ways supporting the youth. So, Al, thank you very much for everything you've done. Appreciate it. Thank you. Wow, you never know on these things. But public supermarket, Dave. So here's the catch.
I was the catcher.
That's right. And Dave grew up in Satellite Beach, and his next door neighbors were the Carlsons. Through hurricanes, through helping with different programs at the police department, the rec department, the high school, has been a mainstay in our community. 52 years. Wow. And they're a great partner with us in our city and makes our city a better place. And Dave, on behalf of the city, the public, thank you very much. Welcome home. The next 52 years. I think I met Mr. DePrima when I was a little kid. Probably running around, messing with houses, stealing wood from it, dealing with buildings. But when we were working on obtaining property at the beach and so forth, Mr. DePrima was very instrumental in helping us obtain the land that we have on our beach. And whether it was Little League or anything at the school that needed to be done, Mr. DePrima was there for us. In the early days, sponsoring Little League, football, and a lot of different programs that helped the city. And it was one of the first builders in our town, and has been a great asset to our town for all these years. And he's been here with DePrima Construction for 52 years. At this time, we have some awards from this department. Chief.
Mayor, can you get a group?
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
If everybody can stay for a minute. When Chief's done, we're going to take a recess. We have some refreshments, and then we'll resume the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. I appreciate the opportunity. One of my favorite things to do. We have a couple of volunteers that we'd like to recognize. And, you know, we think about volunteerism in Satellite Beach. You think back to when Percy Hedgecock started this city, and he built it on volunteerism, and that hasn't changed. Since the late 50s, when this area became a city, it's been built on volunteerism, and it has always been a mainstay, and it always will be, as far as I'm concerned. And it's the people that I'm getting ready to talk about tonight, along with many others, that make it go. And the people that I want to talk about tonight have been, one has been 15 years, and the other two have been 20-year volunteers with the police department, the very beginning of when the volunteer program started. And I think that says something, when you not only can get somebody to volunteer, but then get them to volunteer and do a lot, and then get them to stay for 20 years, something's got to be going well. And that's just the kind of people they are. And the different things that they do are the Citizens on Patrol, the Marine Patrol, ATV, Beach Patrol, the house checks, and of course the Stop By and Say Hi, our coveted program that we get a lot of attention for, and that it's well deserved. But with all the programs we have, Linda puts people in different places where they do the best work and where they have the most fun and serve the citizens the best. And it's just been going great. It's been going great. And I want to recognize these people. The first one we have is Bob Peters, 15 years of service. Thank you. Hey, thank you very much. Bob did was the mainstay of the Marine Patrol. Bob was the kind of person that took care of the boat. When I say took care of the boat, anybody that's owned a boat knows that that's not a small feat. Anytime the boat had any issues, Bob would come pick up, go down, take the boat out of the water, get it ready, get it down, get it worked on, report back to what was going on, try to find the best, the cheapest, the easiest way to get it done, sometimes fix it himself, putting it back in the water, making sure it was done right for 20 years. I mean, anybody that's owned a boat knows that that's not, you don't just put it in the water and play with it and it's done. It takes a lot of maintenance and a lot of care, and he has kept the price that boat would have normally cost would have been outrageous if it wasn't for all the stuff that Bob's done. And along with many other things, but that's probably what his legacy will be here, and we continue to enjoy his services. So, Bob, thank you very much. We have George Ammon, 20 years of service. George, one of the founding members of our volunteer program, and was doing house checks and Sampson's Island and doing our Citizens on Patrol once a week and provided numerous hours at special events all throughout the city. He can be seen at all the events in Founder's Day and everything. And for 20 years, Bob's been dependable, been there every time we need him, or George, well, Bob too. And George has just been there whenever we call him, and we just can't thank you enough, George. 20 years, yeah. That's awesome. Paul White, 20 years of service. Paul's one of our trainers. Paul's the guy that knows the program, knows all the programs, knows what it takes, knows who would do what, and he's the kind of guy that Linda can rely on to say, Paul and Linda will sit down and say, well, you just trained this person, what do you think that they would be good at? Well, they signed up for this or they mentioned this, but I tell you what, they looked like they'd be really good at this. And they would work together, and Paul was the one that was training. I mean, how many people you figure you've trained in 20 years? I mean, is it even, can you even count that number? And when you have people like that are doing it, that have that corporate knowledge, as they say, you can't put a price on that, because then you don't have to keep redoing it, because they get trained right, they do the right thing in the right place all the time. And it's because of people like Paul. 20 years. Thank you very much, Paul. Now we have our Volunteer of the Year. Volunteer of the Year for 2014 is Sally McAllister. Where is Sally? There she is. Bill Spiegelhalter was also supposed to receive his 15-year pin today, but he's ill, so he wasn't able to make it. But we'll do that at a later time. But I bring that up now because Bill recruited Sally at Founder's Day. Bill had set up the table and was trying to talk to people, and Sally was at Founder's Day. She was enjoying the festivities and walked up to the table to see what was going on. And Bill sold that program. I mean, that guy can sell ice to an Eskimo, I'm telling you. And the next thing you know, she comes in. Well, she starts in 2014, and in her first year, she logs 400 hours of volunteer time. 400 hours. That's an awful lot. And when she first started, she wanted to do the Stop By and Say Hi program, which a lot of people do when they first start. That's what brings them in because of that program, and it's such a good program. But then ultimately we realized, wow, there's a lot more things to do, thanks to Bill and Linda and Paul and George, and that can put her in different places, and she's been doing everything now. So I'm not even sure we can say that your specialty is one or the other, because anytime we need anything, she's there. And when you talk about 400 hours your first year and you can do anything, that's worthy of Volunteer of the Year. Thank you very much. I used to think this was my favorite part, but I think this is now the city manager's favorite part, but I'd like to throw this out at the end. The combined efforts of the volunteer program for 2014 logged 5,031.5 hours. That would be a savings to the city of $94,843.78. Okay, if you'll indulge me, I just have one more thing. Linda, where'd you go? Come back up here for just 1 second. I'm gonna be in a lot of trouble tomorrow morning, but I'm doing it anyway. You know, I talk about the volunteer program a lot, and I go around and we talk about the Stop By and Say Hi program, we talk about all the different things and all the volunteers, but then you gotta stop and realize that if it wasn't for Linda, there would not be a program. Because somebody has to manage those 44 people. Because anybody that's managed people before, you know that managing 44 people is very difficult to do. And by the way, that's not her whole job, that's actually the secondary part. Her job is taking care of me and making sure that I get where I'm supposed to go and do what I've got to do. That was something that unfortunately we had the person that was helping resign. So she took it over. And in typical fashion, Linda didn't just say, okay, I'll just manage it, I'll keep it running, I'll keep it moving forward until we can get somebody in place to help out. Now, she decided, I'm going to revamp the program, I'm going to rewrite all the policies, I'm going to redo the book, I'm going to add more programs, and I'm going Linda. And I thought, you know what, at some point, we're going to have to slow her down, because if I start missing meetings or something, something's got to give, right? Not a thing. Nothing in the office changed except her workload. And I just want to read you this, because this is what got started. I couldn't go to the volunteer Christmas party. So Commander Barrios, who was standing right there, he went to my place. And he says, well, what am I going to go do? And I said, well, represent me in the police department and go there. She's going to give out the certificates for the volunteers. He said, okay. So I'm going to read my beginning, and then I'm going to actually read what Commander Barrios wrote to me in an email, because I think it's very important, and then my comments. I just want to personally commend you for your outstanding service to this department, to our sworn and civilian members, and especially to our volunteers. Recently, I received an email from Commander Barrios in which he praised the job you did during the volunteer party. And he said this to me. He wrote, Linda, who has always poured her heart and soul into the volunteer program, did the same with each certificate handed to the volunteers. I initially thought that these certificates were going to be generic in nature, where you just change the name and the verbiage is basically the same. Boy, was I wrong. He went on to say, I listened as she read each individually typed, individually thought out, every single thing that that person did encapsulated and their accomplishments throughout the year. Each recipient walked away with a precious memento. I was truly impressed. I know that we have a great bunch of volunteers. The countless hours they provide to the police department and the city is priceless. But to have a passionate program coordinator like Linda is beyond priceless. Linda Harlow truly is a rare gem, and I'm so proud of the job she does for us on a daily basis and the job she did on this day to acknowledge our volunteers. Now, I read that and I thought, wow, and he told me that he had to write it because he didn't think he could say it to me. And I said, okay. I said, well, so that's the beginning of the letter, and then the last paragraph that I added, Linda, I couldn't have said it any better myself. You continually impress me with your enthusiasm, your professionalism, your dedication, and your ability. My eyes and ears, always, you remind me of important matters, you keep things organized so that the days run smoothly as possible, and the police work, that's not always easy to do. You constantly demonstrate these qualities that make you an invaluable asset to this department, the city of Satellite Beach, and especially to me. You are very well respected, not only here, but all over the county. But no one has more respect for you than I do. We make a great team, and I am truly proud of you and to watch you change people's lives in a positive way each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the council, I'd like to thank again the business owners and all the volunteers and Linda for your great job and your dedication to our city. We will take about a 10-minute recess, and if the business owners, we can meet right here. I know they want to get in the volunteers some photos. Thank you. Good evening. We'll start the meeting. We're going to move to agenda item 3, which is citizens' comments. This is for This is for non-agenda items. Citizens' comments for non-agenda items.
Good evening, Council. Ron Jagutis, resident Satellite Beach. CRA. I guess we're all going to have COTS planning this weekend, from my understanding, including residents, which is a good thing. I have a question, since it's a non-action item in the city manager's report related to the resiliency project. Is it all right if I speak about that?
I'll allow that.
All right. It has come to my understanding, based on this agenda, that the survey is closed already. My question is, first, has every property owner in the city received a notice through the mail related to this survey?
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, they have,
To
correct?
the best of my
Yeah.
knowledge, we have reached out to every homeowner, not only by mailings, but also at Founder's Day, at the Ocean Reef Fest, we had it set up.
All right. I got a call from a neighbor a couple of days ago, and it's an out-of-state resident, and he doesn't believe he got one, but he was also perplexed that it was closed. And then I see that we had the Beachcaster out, and I would think that a matter like this, the resilient community, that involves all residents inside the city, all property owners inside the city, and perhaps even should include commercial properties and related owners, that we would have not just a letter go out, and not just at the Ocean Reef Festival, but also announcements in the Beachcaster, especially the last one, where it could have been in there that, hey guys, we're closing this up, and we really need your input. And I don't know the results of the input right now, how many have done it, whether there were additional people who are non-residents who contributed. It'd be an interesting fact to find out, but my gosh, such a huge thing, where I thought the Beachcaster would be utilized as something to remind people. And then I even went, and I can be corrected on this, I even went to the Facebook page. I didn't see any notice of closing this item. Nowhere did it state that it's closing already. I don't think it's right. In my understanding, there was that we would have. I know we're going to have additional meetings, but you would think that we would have done a little more outreach. And back to the COTS, did the city get their in-kind COTS from a vendor as was done last year? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Jagutis.
Okay, Mr. Jakutis, they would like to ask you one question.
Mr. Jagutis, do you have the plan that you promised us at our last meeting on the infrastructure projects that we need to do?
Do I have my plan?
Yes, you said you were going to do the plan and give it to us.
I'm doing something with the plan. I'm not quite done yet.
Okay,
Yeah, I am working on that.
okay, good.
And I thought it would be appropriate to address when it comes up. I believe it's an agenda item
When what comes up?
on the plan.
Thank you.
The stormwater,
No, the roads.
the road, yeah. Yeah, you'll get it.
Thank you. Courtney, would you like to answer it, or do you want me to answer it on the resiliency study?
Well, we wrote an article in the Beachcaster announcing the project shortly, and then we also wrote in there that we would be sending each resident a notice to take the survey, which we did. We sent each property owner in the city an invitation to take the survey. we set up a table at the Ocean Reef Beach Festival. The grant required us to close the survey at the end of December. We applied for a grant extension so we could have some tables set up at the Schechter Center, which we did do. We did that for 2 days. And then I had on my Facebook page, I did send out a notice for people to take the survey on my Facebook page, and that went out. I think that was, sent out also with the article or radio show from the National Public Radio, which did a spot on our project. So it was very well publicized. I'm not real sure what else we could do. We can't keep a survey open forever. At some point, you have to close it so you can analyze the results and get the results out to the community, which we are doing. So I know there's questions about the results, but we can't really provide that yet because we're still doing the analysis. So when we get that done, we'll release that to the community.
And we also, if I'm not mistaken, concerning non-citizens accessing it,
We required an address, and that's actually was a required field to take the survey. So if people didn't put their address in, we won't be using those results. So we'll provide a report on, the non-residents as well as the residents, and report on all the data. But for the purposes of the public planning aspect of using the information, we'll only be counting the community, the people who own property in the city, own a business, or live here.
Thank you. The floor is still open for public comment. Public still open.
Hello, I'm Mark Abraham, Satellite Beach resident. I've brought up the issue several times, and Mr. Mayor, respectfully, I've brought up the issue of the resilient program being based on sea level rise and climate change, global warming. Not once, not twice, but 3 times you've made comments. Of course, I can't because I don't have a microphone once I leave. You've made the comment that, well, it really has nothing to do with that, and that it has everything to do with hurricanes. That's what you're really worried about. In addition to that, you've also gone on and made the comment last time that about the resilient program, that all of the communities up and down the East Coast are all doing it. That's a comment that you made at the last meeting. That is completely false. And I would like the attorney, Mr. Beadle, to please follow along closely, because I'm going to make a statement that's very important, and it's going to require, I'm sure, your legal input on it. Your report was written in 2010. It utilizes several studies that were done in 2007 and 2009. One of those studies that was done was the 4th assessment of the IPCC, that's the UN's Intercontinental Panel on Climate Change. The information that was used for that has been proven to be junk science, but even more than that, it was proven to be fraudulent science. I have here the book that was written on the subject matter. It's called ClimateGate. The scientists who came up with the information for sea level rise, temperature rises, sea melt, and the entire 9 yards of that information, it turns out that they were on the take. They found out that the more they wrote about that, the more investments they were given. They worked for the East Anglia University in England. They were caught. People mandated and obtained their emails, and they found out that these men had conspired to literally create their information so that they could create what we all know now, if you follow the subject matter, the hockey stick graph, where all of a sudden temperatures, sea level rise just go off the charts. Your report references this as their background. In addition to that, it makes outlandish statements to even start the report, saying that it's inevitable and all agreed that this type of sea level rise is going to occur. And that is a false statement. In addition to that, the references that are used are dynamic websites. Now, I don't know where you came from, But anytime there's a report that's made, you've got to lock in that information. You can't create footnotes and references to websites and to documents that you don't have control over. It has to be freeze-framed. You have to have it captured, because you can't use a website that I'm looking at today that was referenced in a document made in 2010, and I don't have access to the same information that was there because it's all changed. So your document is based on fraudulent information, which means that your resiliency project is too. One more thing I'd like to point out. The UN is the one who created the Agenda 21 program, and I've asked you that story. And Mrs. Barker, I would love to have an answer directly from you, because I think I've asked this question the wrong way every time for the last couple months. I'd like to know if you know whether or not the resiliency program is part of the UN Agenda 21 program. Because you see, when that program came out from the Rio climate change meeting that was done back in 91, 92, approximately that area, they then realized that they couldn't get countries to buy in, so they decided to be regionalized. So they went to a regional program pushing the buzzword sustainability. I'm sure you've heard that. Then they decided that didn't work, so they were going to have to go local. So they created what's known as LA21. That stands for Local Agenda 21. Their buzzword there was resiliency. But they did something very important, and that's this. Any of you people who have been in business know that if you want to get government to buy your product or to buy your services, you need to get yourself written into the spec. So part of their master plan was to make sure that your city was accessed by them in the comprehensive planning department, so that their verbiage could be placed into your document. Okay. So what I'd like to know is this, is that, do you feel that it's appropriate, knowing that this information and the documentation has been verified, proven as not just wrong but fraudulent, that you should continue with it? And Mrs. Barker, I'd like to know if you know whether or not this program of resiliency is attached to the UN.
Sir, to me, and we'll get your answer, and your time's up.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to address a comment made about what I said. And I can tell you, because I've said it to many people, if you don't believe in global warming, sea level rise, it doesn't mean that this study is not for you. Sir? Okay. Thank you. No problem. What I have said is I think that the average person is going to believe in hurricanes. And part of the study is when certain hurricanes come. I'm not preaching one way or the other on climate change, sea level rise. That's why we're going through this, and that, I think a lot of that stuff you said is definitely your opinion, because you can speak to other scientists, and they sure believe in it. So we are doing the study with their information from people from FIT, who are a lot smarter on this issue than I am, and that's why we're going through this. And to be honest with you, no, sir. No, sir. No comment. No comment.
Then consider yourself notified.
Sit down, please. We are having the study done. When the reports come out, it'll be available to everybody. And I think a lot of it is people's opinions. You can find opinions in either direction there. So we are doing the study. We think it's the right thing to do. And to tell me that other places are not doing it, I belong to the Florida League of Cities. I sit in on the Environment Board, and I can tell you many cities came up to us and asked us concerning our study we're doing, and they are doing it. We had someone from Georgia come to our League of Cities, the Florida State League of Cities, because they had the issue and they're doing it. So we are not the only ones. There are a lot of cities that are doing this. So that's my comment on it. And Courtney, whatever information you need to get for the gentleman, if you feel fit, please do so, or if there's anything you'd like to answer right now.
I don't know where to start, because this is a planning project, and if climate change, if you don't believe in it, and it doesn't happen, then the plan doesn't go into effect. So, there may be some people who argue about, quite frankly, in my opinion, most of the scientific community that I'm aware of isn't arguing about whether climate change is happening anymore. It's kind of considered a fact now. They may argue about the cause, but whether or not it's happening isn't really an argument anymore. The second thing is, so to me, we're doing what's prudent and wise in planning for the future, and taking in consideration all threats. It's part of threat planning. I mean, you take in your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats and plan for the future. It's not unusual to do that for any community. It's risk, risk assessment and making sure that, we protect our community. I'm not real sure why anybody would have a problem with the city doing that.
Are you asking?
No, I'm not. I'm making a comment. Secondly, I don't know why Agenda 21 would even be talked about in this instance. I really don't understand that. I've never seen Agenda 21 connected to this grant, connected to this type of planning. So I'm not real sure where that came in. But we're just simply looking at a possible risk to the city, and we're looking at ways to address it. That's it. There's no conspiracy. I don't know why it's political, but to us it's not. It's just prudent planning. That's it.
Thank you. Public comment is still open. Would you like to make a comment?
Yes, I would. The fact that somebody finds a book that supports his own biases is absolutely meaningless. And I have no doubt that someone who is as personally invested in being against the notion of climate change is only going to be reading those books that support his own biases. The fact of the matter is you can find books published about just about anything on either side or many sides of any issue. You could probably find a book with the premise that Christ was a corporal in the United States Army. It doesn't make it true just because it's in print.
Okay. Thank you. This time, the public comment is still open. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, folks who are here this evening, my name is Floyd Beach. I'm a Satellite Beach resident since 1978. This is my third visit in as many years to inform the council and the city of Satellite Beach of an effort that began back in 2007 that intends to memorialize and honor all of our fallen from Iraq and Afghanistan. What makes my visit significant this evening is that in December, the administration officially declared an end to combat operations in Afghanistan. That in itself allows me to move forward with phase 3 of the project. And over here to my left, I have a display I'd like to pass around to the council members to see, and also to the people that are out here this evening. On Friday, for those who receive it, the Hometown News is going to publish a story about Project Remembering Our Heroes. Shortly thereafter, the Viera Voice will publish. Not long after that, perhaps the Florida Today will publish. And as a semi-retired diplomat, the folks that and my colleagues in Washington have assured me that this is not going to be long before this becomes a nationwide event. But the project itself is going to involve all citizens of Brevard County. It's very personalized, and everyone that is a Brevard County resident and a Satellite Beach resident will have an opportunity to be a part of this. And what's unique about the folks here at Satellite Beach is this will take place right here. We are going to construct 6,820 of these displays right here at the cash and carry, provided that does not be leased or someone comes in and uses it for another purpose. I meet tomorrow with the realtor, who in turn will contact the landlord, and we've spoken to them in the past, and right now that is our goal, to use that area as our production facility. And I come to you tonight encouraging everyone to read the Hometown News when it comes out, but more importantly, I ask your permission because in that article, and I apologize for not getting to you sooner, but in the article that's going to come out, it tells the public that reads that I will be over there next to the Satellite Beach Post Office on Saturday from 12 to 3 to answer questions from any citizens or anyone that reads that paper about this project. The entire thing, as you see it, involves everybody locally. Mr. Carlson's going to be involved, and the Highland Mint will be involved with the coins and the keychains. It is a community effort. The entire project will focus here, but it will involve all the residents who wish to do so in Brevard County. It will be a pledge forward process that has never been done before. People will pledge ahead, and 1 year from the date, I will call them in with their pledge, and they will sit down, and the individuals will make one of those displays for every fallen hero. They in turn will put their information on the inside, and tentatively, on August the 26th of 2016, we will present each display in a national presentation day to each primary family member of a fallen hero at exactly the same time, 3 Eastern and 12 Pacific, and across our time zones and our territories. And it will all come from here. We have 10 from Brevard County. I have in my pocket a ranger bracelet that was given to me by Will Holland, who was the father of Robert Sanchez. He's our only Brevard County casualty, Satellite Beach casualty. But we have 10 from Brevard County, and we have 326 from the state of Florida. And everyone involved in this project will make a display for every one of those, as well as everyone else in the country. So I'm asking tonight if I have permission to sit over there on Saturday and address anyone that happens to come by and wishes to pledge forward and say, yes, I want to help. The word has just got out, and I had 18 people contact me already today, and it's not even out on the street yet.
No.
And I meet next Tuesday with the Indian Harbor Beach Council, and I'm a member of the Brevard Chamber of Commerce, and I met with them today. And there is a multitude of people that want to get on board and support this project. But it all starts right here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sir, may I ask?
Please.
When you say you're looking for people to pledge, what are they pledging?
They're going to pledge, from the time they give them the pledge sheet, they will put $1 a week away for 50 weeks. And then during this year, I'll call them back next year, and I will give them this keychain that says, "A fallen hero remembered." On the back, it will say, "A pledge is not forgotten." And they will receive this, and then they will go in and sit down and physically assemble the display.
That's neat. You asked for permission?
And I'm asking just for permission to sit out
And the
there.
money from the pledges will be used for what?
The cost of that display, as you see it,
Okay.
delivered to a family, is less than $50 because of the generosity of folks at the Highland Mint, and Mr. Carlson, and the military. And the only place that is not local is the box itself, which comes out of Hickory, North Carolina. Had we had someone here to make those, but they're just made at such a reduced cost that no one can afford to do that. So we've gone outside to get that. But that's the cost. And I have companies like Merrill Lynch, I have companies like Harley Davidson who will support functions to lower that cost even more. So when I call in the pledges next year, although we say now it's $1 a week for 50 weeks, you may only have to walk in with a $10 pledge or a $20 pledge and still achieve the same result.
And what's the name of the project?
The project is Remembering Our Heroes. The website is rememberingourheroes.com. And just as a sideline, if you watched the news last night, 6,000 anonymous citizens from across the United States pledged $222,000 in 2 days to buy a man in Detroit a car to get to work. I believe that this project, the country needs something like this to bring it together, even if for one small moment when we present these en masse. We're looking for something like that. And I think we can do it with the citizens of both Satellite Beach and Brevard County. Thank you.
Thank you. Courtney, as I was given permission, we don't own the post office. So,
It's actually the cash and carry next to it, just out in front, just directly on the sidewalk.
Yeah, it's not our property, so you just have to call the property owner and get their permission, and that's, yeah,
Great.
okay.
thank you.
The post
Good luck.
office is fully aware of this as well. They're going to bend over backwards with this, and it's going to take on a life of its own very soon. Everybody can be involved.
Yep, thank you very much, and
Thank you.
we appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment still open? Hearing none, close the public comment portion. And move on to city council comments. Council's permission, I'll start, if you don't mind. This weekend, there is a surfing festival. Locals only. Locals only. Long Doggers and a lot of the local businesses have put an amazing amount of time. I saw them today, they were working on it, and I think you're going to see that they're going to have a pretty amazing event up there. And I think it goes to show you that, you know, people love the beach around here. The Ocean Festival was an incredible turnout, and I think you're going to find that the surf contest is going to be very interesting, and they've worked real hard on it. So that'll be up there this weekend. We had our first public town hall meeting up at Montecito. I think it went incredibly well, and got a lot of good comments afterwards and letters afterwards to us on it. And I think this, you know, the right direction, and we have another one coming up February 11th. So that's all I have to say. Let's start.
I would just like to echo that. I thought that meeting went very well. I have talked to also a few residents. It's funny, I've been going up there by the CAP office to meet with some folks and run into some of the neighbors out there, and again, they've echoed the same sentiments. We were so happy that you came. We were so happy that you came out. You did make us feel like we were part of the city. So I haven't got one negative word about it, so everything I've had is so far is positive. I hope that the rest of the meetings go just as well. I think that was one of our big things, is trying to communicate with everybody and get everybody out there and get everybody to have a say. So I'm hoping we're going in the right direction. That's all.
Mark?
After the last council meeting, I headed down to Fort Lauderdale to attend the National Fall Prevention Conference. It was a 2-day conference, just to kind of give you a heads up on some stuff that's coming for as far as our seniors go. It was kind of interesting, the way they had us present. The lady out of Washington from the National Council on Aging presented first. And then they had Florida come up, which was me present second. We actually had presentations from all over the country. But a lot of interest in what's going on here in Florida because of the demographics that we're facing. And, you know, both of the chiefs are on top of this. I mean, with the stop by to say hi, and of course with fall prevention and everything that is going on in the fire department. But as demographics continue to change, you're going to see some additional demands on the city. So I'm not asking anything, I'm just sharing this with you because we'll have to plan for this down the road. But between now and 2030, which is 15 years, our 65 and above population is going to double in the state of Florida. That's the estimates right now. And the second thing that's really very interesting, 5 of the top 7 counties with an age of greater than 65 are in Florida in the United States. 5 of the top 7. So now, of course, that's you're talking Sarasota and Miami and Naples and that sort of thing. Those are the different counties. But, you know, we're going to be, so whatever we're doing as far as proactive with health care with our elderly, I know we're talking about a clinic and all that sorts of things, it's going to be a burden on the city if our population continues to shift. So, but Florida is kind of a focal point for it right now just because of the numbers that I just gave you. So good attendance, a lot of nice information. I've got a call from West Virginia wanting some more information and that sort of thing. So people are kind of looking at what's going on down here. Bottom line is I think we're doing the right thing. We just need to stay on top of it, and I know these 2 guys are. So we'll just, but it's going to get kind of interesting in the next 10 years down here in Florida with our elderly population. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I just want to say that, you know, the meeting at Montecito, we've had town hall meetings in the city for a long time now. It's been going on probably about 4 or 5 years, and I've never been the one that was as well attended. I think, and this is kind of, I brought this to Courtney's attention that we probably needed to do one there, but I also think that by doing them outside of a city facility, I'm hoping that we get the same turnout from the next 4 that we do in different areas of the city. And I think people are more inclined to come to a non-city facility to come and do these meetings. And I think we've reached out to the citizens. We're mailing to them. And, you know, we're looking for citizens' input. We want to know, we want them to know what's going on. We want them to be understanding of what the city's issues are, what their needs are, and we're looking to continue doing these. And I think it was a great opportunity to get that input from them. So I'm looking forward to doing more of these.
Thank you.
I'd like the council's permission for me, or authorization for me to do a special edition Beachcaster on the utility tax and the plans surrounding that, and to get it out as soon as possible.
Question on it? We're going to do these meetings to the different groups in the city. And do we want to put that out prior to it? Because maybe between now and the last meeting, someone might come up with a different idea than we're doing right now. And all I'm saying is it premature? Do we want to gather the information from these meetings that we're going to, and then when we're finished, put out that special Beachcaster? Because I was under the impression that's kind of how we were going to follow it, and part of the reason for doing these meetings was to get that public input. So
the potential is always there for the naysayers to start the rumors about all these terrible things that the council is doing. And in order to combat that, you need to get ahead of the rumor mill. And I can couch it in terms of this is what the council is considering, as opposed to these are what we are going to do. And that gives us the leeway to amend our plans after input at these town hall meetings if we want to. But I think that this is a potentially explosive enough issue that we need to address it head on, early on.
Lorraine, I think that the ASAP side of it is, I'm sorry, get in here where you can hear me. The ASAP side is very important. I think it needs to get out there. I think that it will generate some input. I think if you put it as the problem, we're looking for solutions, I think that would be a good way to do that, because you're going to generate comments from that, and I think that kind of helps what the mayor's talking about. But, yeah, I'd get it out there. I really would. And show, for example, show what the roads look like and what that could potentially be. And there was a discussion on the county roads tonight. And I saw that on a broadcast that said exactly what David and Alan had said. If the under part of the road begins to go, you're looking not just at resurfacing, you're looking at doing the whole road. So the county's looking at the exact same thing. The comment is they've only got $5 million to do their roads, but they got to get on it because some of these roads are deteriorating so quickly. So my thought is, yeah, get it out there. I mean, if the mayor thinks it should be an idea gathering process, I'm fine with that, whatever works, but I think we need to generate that talk to kill the rumors. Mm-hmm. That's my thought. So,
and my only thing on it is the process. We've put a process in place. We want to go to the public to get their input. And I don't want it to be written in a way that it gives the feeling that it's closed-minded and this is already a done deal this way. I've had people in the community I respect very much who had said to me, why don't you do an ad valorem, because that way I can write it off. And so that, that's another avenue. And I think, and the only reason I'm saying it because I think the first town hall meeting we had is very much different than the town hall meetings that are going to be within our city, and this then center, within our cities, but the next forum, the other neighborhoods. Thank you. And again, I'm willing to listen to anybody's idea. I mean, if it's a good idea and it's something that works, why not? And we just haven't been through the process enough. So I don't mind doing it, but I don't want it to be that this is the only way we're going to do it. Here's an avenue.
But we need to get the facts out there, and it would be actually beneficial if the facts are out there before we have these other town hall meetings, so that the residents will already be informed about what we've been considering.
Well, we have one coming up next Wednesday.
Yeah.
We have 2 coming up in March and 2 in February. I think if we get the information out and we present the information and let people know that they can come to these meetings and be heard, I think it's a good thing to do, to get the information out. And I mean, when you talk about the roads, all one has to do is drive down Riverside Drive and see what's going on Riverside Drive. In 2 months, it'll be almost a year they've been working on Riverside Drive, and it's nowhere near done. And that's a prime example of how when roads go bad. It's been being worked on now. They said it was going to be done in October, and it's February, and it's nowhere near done.
Well, Dominic, you don't think...
We're not the only ones dealing with this.
Right, but my feeling is putting the information out. I would rather have it put out in a way that we're showing them what we have to deal with and what are some of the ways that we can pay for it, rather than say, this is the way we're going to pay for it.
Trust me,
I
Mr. Mayor.
understand.
I would just like to add, I think to go along with that is you really want to push the point of the meetings. Because you're right, I think, if you put that information out to every homeowner and they all get that, and we tell them this is the case, you need to say, and these are the meetings to come bring your ideas. We kind of, again, you get to publicize that meeting one more time with all these people so that they can read it, come up with their ideas or their opinions, and meet us there. I think it could be twofold. Like you said, get the facts out there, get it where everybody sees it, and let's publicize the meeting one more time to make sure we can get maximum participation by everybody there. And it would probably be good if they're there and actually have that in their hand, because then they can speak to it.
That's right.
Lorraine, I know when you come up with these ideas, you kind of got them formed in your head already. I mean, it's pretty much written, and I know that. I know you may not put it on paper, but it's written. So can you just, from your timeline standpoint, tell me what ASAP would mean?
Well, I'm almost totally finished the handbook, so I can move on. It would be finished by next week,
Okay. That's kind of what I figured you were going to say, maybe the week after that. So, okay.
and then go to the printer in however long it takes to get it mailed.
Okay.
So it would be week after next that it hits people's homes.
Okay.
Okay, the last week in February, basically, right?
No, first,
No,
it'd be the week of the
third
16th.
week. Third week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that good with everybody?
I'm fine with that. I think it's a great
I
idea.
think it's a good idea.
Get the information out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other council comments? Something done?
I'm not council, but I got comments.
Okay, well, I will get you right now. Any other council comments? Okay, I'm going to put in here, we can have a city attorney's report.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor. I was asked to talk to you about the required ethics training that went into effect in January of this year. Now, the couple of reasons that I've been asked to talk to you about it. Number one, I actually did one 2 weeks ago in Volusia County. It was the second one that's been done statewide, sponsored by the League of Cities. And it went very well. It was a packed house. Most every elected official from Volusia County, whether it was county or city, was there. And it was well received. It will be available, and that's part of the reason I wanted to give you some options here, as a webinar in a not-too-distant future on the League of Cities website. And that's important because it leads me to discuss with you the options to get this training. Courtney had asked me, could I provide the training, and the answer is yes, and I actually did provide it in Volusia County. There are some places that it is coming up, and it's free to you to show up at because you're a league member, but I don't know that any of these places are close to you. Winter Haven, Port St. Lucie, Crestview, and so on. Lake County, Vero Beach, Cross City, Live Oak, Lake Worth. I don't know if any of that grabs your attention, but they have the dates down here. But those are not the only ways to get the training. Now, one way would be to have me come back and give it to you all at once. You take your medicine all at one time, or you can take it in parts and pieces and portions. Another way is to get it online, and it costs you nothing. And the reason that is true is because, as it tells you on the League of Cities website, it is the responsibility of the municipal officer to keep records of the completion of these courses. If a person is elected for the first time in the first months of the year, they have until 2016 to complete the continuing education. Significance of this is how they plan for you to report this is on the financial disclosure forms, the Form 1s that you do like in June or July. And there will be a box to check. Do you certify that you have done the training? It's similar, but not exactly the same, to what lawyers have to do every year when they fill out their bar dues. They have to certify that their trust accounts are in compliance and so forth. And so it's an honor system, but with significant consequences if they find out it's not true. And so that's the option. Now, how can you get the training? Well, number one, it obviously, as I said, I'm happy to do it for you. I've done it, and it's funny, they make you go 4 hours. It's 2 hours of ethics, 1 hour of sunshine, and 1 hour of public records. I could probably do everything you really need to know in about an hour and a half, but they made it 4, so it's 4. And so I can make it last 4. I have that ability. I can just talk slow. But at any rate, there are a number of materials available on the League of Cities website under events and training, and it tells you where the webinars are, and you can play the presentations that way. And when the first ones, the ones that are designed to have the full 4-hour blocks, they haven't appeared yet, but when they do, that is one option for you to go online and then make sure you keep track of when you saw them and so forth. Another way where you can actually start sooner than that is the Commission on Ethics website, which is ethics.state.fl.us. You can find it's not a problem. Under the training section, they have, again, more information about the ethics training that went into effect in January. And it's very convenient because in addition to having several video or audio presentations, it's conveniently tells you what the topic is and how long it takes. So, for example, Code of Ethics for Public Officers and Employees video tutorial, 1 hour and 38 minutes. Okay, I'm getting there. Public Records and Public Meetings law video tutorial, 1 hour. So now if you did those 2, you're up to 2 hours and 38 minutes. Voting conflicts for local offices, 55 minutes. Gifts for local government officials, 45 minutes. You're pretty much there. And so these are available to you right now, but you need to keep records so that then when you certify, if somebody questions, well, when did you do it? What did you see? You don't know if it's going to happen, but it could. That's how you do it. So it is basically your pleasure. Many people, and the reason I think the room was packed was they didn't know that these materials were already available and online. And at the same time, too, for many people who have difficulty sitting there listening to tape and much prefer a live setting, that's, let's just knock it out and get done, and we'll have our breaks and we'll be done. So you have those options, but I wanted to make sure you knew them, and I'm happy to do whichever you want. You can, when my webinar should be out according to what they were saying in the next couple of weeks, and it'll be available online, or I can just come over here and do it, or do it piece by piece. I can do a sunshine law one time and do, however it suits you. If you don't want to sit here for 4 hours, I get that too.
Cliff, if we did it and you came over and we did a 4-hour, I mean, at that point, do we have a certificate or something that says
No.
we did it, or we just know we did it with you?
The
and
ones that are
we
sponsored-
certify it that way.
The ones that
and
are sponsored by, I can certainly issue one, but the ones that are done by the league, they have done it so the official has records that it shows up. He or she has got only not their registration, but they are given something. The league has been doing that. They did it at the one I presented a couple of weeks ago. But I don't have any pre-manufactured
I mean,
certificates.
if we did it right here with you,
Yeah.
the city would have the record that you were here.
They would have the record.
And that's all we need as our certification.
That
Okay.
you could do as well. And I'm sure if I asked the league, they'd probably just furnish me some certificates since I was donated 4 hours of my life I'll never get back.
I would recommend that he come in and do that, because he's a good presenter too, and then you'd have the ability to answer,
I
ask
want to ask
questions and things
questions
like that,
and
right?
so forth myself. And also, who else in our city needs to take this?
Just the elected officials.
I would be there, I know Andy would be there, and then Lenore would be there as well.
Okay.
But we could also invite some of our neighboring cities as well and allow them to share in the cost and come too.
I would like to personally just get it done, like a date that's convenient.
So would you like me to
and do it.
go ahead and schedule that with all of you and Cliff? Okay.
Yeah, library.
We can either do this approach for 4 hours, or we can just read my handbook. It's all in there.
We'll take the 4 hours. That's all. Not him, okay. No. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Courtney, you'll set it up?
Yep,
Thank you.
we'll do it. Thank
Is
you.
this a weekend thing or an evening thing?
Well, please no.
Okay, no, I agree with you on that. An evening thing
It's
then?
when, it is whenever you want it to be. I will make it convenient for you. The last one was on a Friday, and it started at 8:30 and it finished at 12:30, and there was some donuts and coffee, as I recall. But short of that, I can, as long as I have enough time, enough lead time to get it on my calendar, I can make it work. I'd like not to be on a weekend, but I can do that if I have to.
The only thing I have, it's just impossible to get here before 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that. I mean, I just don't have mornings or afternoons. That's my only.
Would you like to split it up in 2 evenings?
Whatever works. I just know I
That'd be
can't get
better?
here during the day.
'Cause I don't think you guys want to do 4 hours after 6. That
Why don't you
leaves
work
you to
some
10 o'clock at
options
night.
with such and see what works?
For me, I don't care. I'd
Okay.
rather do it one night and get it over.
Yeah.
You know, I don't
6 to
mind
10 would be
6 to
okay?
10.
Anything beats 08:30.
Well, yes, we know that. I would never do that.
All right, thank you.
And would we have it in here?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Courtney, you'll work that out?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, city managers report.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to let everyone know that on February 7th, Trinity Wellsprings Church at 638 South Patrick Drive will be hosting the Haley Hodge Memorial Car Show from 9 to 3. Normally, I would not include a church event in my city manager report. However, this is for Haley Hodge, who is one of our Satellite High School students who passed away recently. And also, Chief Pearson will be in a competition for barbecue at that event. And of course, we definitely want to be there to make sure that he wins, because without our participation, he probably isn't going to win.
I'm there grilling.
Oh, and-
Haley
and
Hodge
then-
is actually a
yes.
Satellite Beach resident.
And resident, yes, in Satellite High School, right. So all residents are invited to attend that, and that will benefit her Memorial Fund for Student Missions. I also wanted to, of course, highlight our local what locals only surf contest this weekend. That my husband will be surfing in that contest, so everybody must go and cheer for him. There will be waves too. Pretty big waves are expected to be this weekend. 6 to 8 on Friday, and I think it'll go down to 6 feet on Saturday and Sunday. So, be exciting. Again, we went through the Resilient Community Survey being closed, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that we're working with the Florida Institute of Technology and the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council to analyze the data from the survey. We'll be compiling that into a report, and we are scheduling a community meeting to present the report in late May or early June of 2015. I will also be scheduling an update of this project to the CPAB, the Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board, to just kind of give them a heads up on where we are with that project, since it has a lot of implications on their work with the comprehensive plan. Happily, I am in discussions with the cities of Indian Harbor Beach, Indian Atlantic, Melbourne Beach, and Cocoa Beach regarding a joint health clinic. We are looking at creating a joint health clinic with Parish Medical Center. We're working on a cost pro forma and a possible consulting agreement to guide the city from a fully insured plan to a self-insured plan. That's a big step for the city, so Parish Medical is assisting us with they're basically going to present us with a cost pro forma for each city for the health clinic to review with you, as well as a scenario kind of what a self-insured plan would look like. We would be presenting that. Once we get that and we meet with Parish Med and all the other cities and we start coming up with like kind of an interlocal agreement on how we're going to work together, we'll present the concept of that to you to get your direction if you want to move forward with that. Commissioner Robin Fisher has asked me to serve on the Tourism Development Council's Beach Renourishment Committee. I did request Attorney Beadle to look into that to make sure that I wouldn't run into any dual office holding issues concerning my position, and he did contact the county attorney's office, and they've determined that there would be no issues with the appointment. So with their concurrence, I'll be moving forward with that. We do have the new dates for the community meetings. We did go through those with you to make sure everybody was in agreement. It's the third meeting that you have not approved would be March 10th at Our Father's House. That would be the residents from Cassia Boulevard to DeSoto Parkway. And then this next meeting would be March 30th at Satellite Beach Library. And those residents would be from DeSoto Parkway to the southmost portion of the city limits. So we would like to get your concurrence on those two meeting dates and locations.
Agree. Everybody okay on that?
Yep.
Okay.
And,
So the library one has been switched again, the date.
yes, because you guys couldn't make those, right?
Because this is an action item, I'll open it up for public comment on this, on the dates for the community meetings. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Council, okay with the dates? Okay, thank you. Any other items, Courtney?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Move to agenda item 8. All right. Agenda item 8, discuss, take action on agreement between the City of Satellite Beach and the medical director.
Thank you, Mayor. We're asking your approval for the contract with Dr. John McPherson for medical director services as required by Florida statute in the amount of $2,500. The ALS program requires a Florida licensed physician to oversee medical care through protocols and training, and Dr. McPherson has been the Department of Medical Director since 1995. It is a budgeted item. We're just asking for your approval of the contract.
So, second.
I have a motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Vice Mayor Montanaro. Discussion from council.
I just have a question about the February 1st date, since this is February 4th.
The original contract that was, when we put things forward, we planned on this being on another earlier meeting, and then that meeting got pushed off, but we had already gone to Dr. McPherson for a signature, which is, his part of it's already been signed.
And you have in here a provision for a 90-day extension and then a contract renewal. Why both?
Two aspects. One is just an automatic renewal at the end of 1 year, and then the other aspect is that at the end of the second, if by chance we want to change medical direction, we'll have a 90-day period to be able to change medical direction at the end of the 2-year period. Though we do not plan on doing that for obvious reasons.
Question, has this been the cost for some time?
Oh, absolutely not. It used to be like $15,000.
Great. Thank you. Questions from council? Okay, at this time, open it up for public comment on agenda item 8.
Ron Jagutis, resident, Satellite Beach. I believe there's a clause in there for the city to carry malpractice insurance. What does that cost to the city?
Do we have that answer from now, or is that something we're going to have to get for him?
I don't know a specific answer, but I think it's all part of our regular liability insurance that we have maintained since we've been at ALS. This provision has been in place by statute as long as I've been employed here. So it's been a normal operating cost. I don't know exactly what it is.
I'd have to research that to get that, to isolate that cost out of our total liability package. So I can get back with you on that answer.
All right.
Thank you. Public comment still open? Hearing none. Back to council. Any further discussion? Lenore?
Councilman Dodd?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it very much. And Courtney, if you can get this information that you requested. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 9, discuss, take action on the lease agreement to store public works vehicle and equipment. Alan?
Good evening. As you all know, 2011, we purchased a vac truck, and we don't have a home for it. We've now found a place to put the vac truck at the old lighting science facility. There's a Quonset hut type building that would accommodate that and some other equipment that we have stored in the rental property over here. We pay $250 a month over here, but we can't fit the vac truck in there. So this is about just a little over double that, and we can store the vac truck, which sorely needs it. an expensive piece of machinery that is starting to rust away, so we need to do something with it. It's a water vehicle anyway, it's gonna work around water, but, if you don't wanna, we don't wanna help it along, so we'd like to protect it as best we can. I think this is a good deal, because we can, use that 250 towards it, and store some other, equipment besides what's in there, and open up some space, which we are sorely running out of, everywhere in the city, but, Public Works, we have equipment that, we definitely need to make sure it's inside, so.
Thank you. My question on this to Alan and Courtney is, I think it's great, but I also think if we look in the long term too, Public Works is kind of stuck in a way where they're at. We don't have a lot of land and places to, if we even had to redo Public Works at some time. And I hate rent and stuff in a way. Is there any way this thing would be worthwhile to rent it for a while and then see about purchasing it if it worked out?
Absolutely, Ed.
I mean, I hate paying rent, and I think, if you look at that, maybe there isn't a little piece of land there that you might need a building for storage down the road. We don't have much, so has anybody approached it from that?
Well, I hadn't thought about that issue. We thought about actually building a building such that Indian Harbor Beach did a couple of years ago. The problem is that we don't have any open land to put a new building on, and, all of our land is pretty much spoken for. So unless we put it in a park or something like that, and then it becomes, and any of our parks now are in the middle of neighborhoods, so it becomes obtrusive to neighborhoods. We had the vac truck parked behind our shop, still wasn't inside, but parked behind our shop, and the fellow that lives behind the shop came over, knocked on my door, and said, "I don't want that thing there anymore. It's killing my trees." So to be a good neighbor, I put it out in front of the parking lot, because I didn't want to, to kill his trees. So, we are running out of room in the city. There's no place to put a building, really, without bothering somebody. So that would be a prime spot, maybe not exactly just that building, but, it's an idea.
Thank you. Questions from council?
Yeah, I have a question again, on the first page, paragraph 3, the lease term begins on January 1.
And again, we were going to bring this to you before we brought you the information on all of the information on the street paving and the stormwater and things like that, so it kind of got lost in the shuffle. I wanted to move it quickly too, but we can, this will be go into effect the day that we sign it, so it'll be a year from that date.
Okay, so there won't be any payment for January?
No.
Will you prorate February?
No, we haven't signed anything, so as soon as we sign it, then that will be the activation date.
Okay, and February would be prorated?
February will be prorated. If we decide to move into there in February, we have the other one until the end of February. So, but we can prorate it, I'm sure. John worked with, John Stone worked the lease out, so I'm sure that won't be a problem.
Why don't we just start it on March 1st?
Would it extend, if we started it on March 1st, would it extend out the end date to February of 17?
Well,
if we're going to go that route?
We wanted to let it term out, at least on the first lease, term out at the end of the budget year. So with whatever changes in the budget, we would have an opportunity to adjust it at that point.
At the end of the budget year is December 31st. It's a calendar year.
But the start date or the end date?
The end date.
The end date.
Okay.
The end date is December 31st.
Instead of September.
Instead of September 30th. And it says the leasee shall have the right, where does it say? It says the lease shall automatically renew for an additional 2 terms unless either party gives written notice.
Right.
Does the price stay the same?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we did work that out.
And he did agree to prorate it if we were to move in early.
Question, then, do we want to end this September 30th, or do we want to
I don't
just
think it
year-to-date?
matters.
Does it matter, does it, for that?
No.
Okay,
We plan our budget so far in advance that it doesn't really matter.
okay. Questions? Hearing none, open up for public comment on this agenda item. Hearing none, bring it back to council.
Move to approve the lease agreement between the City of Satellite Beach and the Regency Center for storage of public works vehicle and equipment.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Dodd, second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion from council?
Mayor, I'll just add that I've had two people on Cinnamon Drive who obviously go by and see the truck out there all the time, who have expressed interest in that we put this in a garage. Both of them saying that it's a sad sight to see that we spent the money on the truck and we have such a good piece of equipment. It seems to be sitting out there rusting, and I think they look more at the rims more than anything else. So I have had comments, and people have made mention of that it really needs to be taken better care of than we've out there. So I think this is a good move to do that, especially as much money we spent on it.
Fortunately, we got a grant for that.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further?
Yes, sir.
Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Dodd?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 10, discuss, take action on council's policies and procedures. Okay.
Okay, on page 2, I'm recommending that we strike all of C, section 1C. All of that information has been moved to the board's handbook, except for the last, the second sentence in the very last paragraph, number 7. The sentence that says, "At the discretion of the city manager, a uniformed police officer may be assigned to meetings." Well, that's one of those, it goes without saying things, and I feel that if it goes without saying, don't say it. So I did not include that sentence in the handbook, but all the rest of this.
That sentence is going to stay in the
No,
code.
it doesn't need to be stated. Of course, the
Okay.
city manager has that authority.
Right, okay.
So,
Can I
all of
ask
this-
one question on that
Sure.
right there? This is not dictated by any state ordinance or anything that has policies and procedures, is it?
Sorry.
This is not dictated by any state ordinance?
No, sir.
Okay. And the only reason I asked that question was, we haven't voted on the handbook. I know we are, but we haven't. So my question was, why are we taking it out when we haven't voted the new piece in? Courtney explained to me that because it's not a state requirement, that we don't have to have it in here anyway. Is that your reason to take it out now?
Well, we were updating this and on the council attire thing, and I just thought we'd go ahead and put the words at the same time. And then on page 3, section 2A, governing provisions, I don't know if anybody else has received all of these documents, but I know I have not upon swearing in. So maybe we need to put together this packet of stuff for council members.
Mm-hmm.
And
We can do that.
I have.
And then on page 4D, section 3D, council attire, what I have there now is what the council had decided should be there. So I amended it. And then if you look on page 5, G, up at the top, G2, it says the second sentence, for requested action items, those on which the council will vote, the request shall be as specific as possible and include any planned motions to be made. I'd like to strike that and include any planned motions to be made. I don't know why that's there. It doesn't make sense. So with your permission, maybe strike that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in the next one, time-sensitive items, council members may have an emergency or time-sensitive item added to an agenda on short notice by filling out the appropriate form. I have no idea what that means.
Never had a form.
Don't either.
So let's strike by filling out the appropriate form. Does that work? Yes. And then also, this, on page 6, which is section 4, citizens' right to be heard by city council, both sides of this page should be at a handout on that table of every meeting, and I don't know if we've been doing that, but is it there? Okay. And
I have a question on page 7 for you.
yeah.
Okay. This is exact wordage on the last one, on number 6, on page 7.
What's your question?
You have it underlined
Yeah.
here, which to me makes something that we've changed it, but it
No,
has not been
that was
changed.
there for emphasis.
Okay. It's the same as we had it in the last copy. Right, okay.
So with that, I move that we approve the council policies and procedures as amended.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Gott, second by Vice Mayor Montanaro. Further discussion? At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 10.
Dale Abrams, resident of the CRA. Is there any reason why we couldn't see what we used to have and then what we're putting together? In other words, the previous policy and procedures that was out there and then the strikeouts, so you could do a comparison to what you're keeping and what you're taking out?
That's what we just did.
No, but on the website, all I had was, this wasn't all of it on the website. In other words, comparing, I pulled up, this is from 10/2/13, and this is from 10/16/13. And the information that were on these documents is different than what was on here. In other words, to be able to do a comparison, okay? You know, a comparison to what we had and what you're going to do going forward.
In the agenda packet is the current council policies and what we're changing, what proposed to be changed is stricken out, except for those provisions that were added that she just spoke about.
And the ones that are added have been underlined.
Right.
Right, but we've done a lot of changes to,
The ones that are in the agenda packet is the latest and greatest, and the changes that have been proposed are underlined in the agenda packet.
okay, all right, well, maybe I'm not making myself clear, but you might want to take a look at 10/2/13 and 10/16/13, because there are some differences there. And I had to do that, just for your own information, on the website. There is no specific area for this document, okay? I had to go through the council meetings, the agenda packets, and find it.
We'll check on that.
If it's the wish of council, that we do council policies and procedures, I can do that.
I didn't hear it.
She said that she could put the policies and procedures as a tab on the website.
Maybe under documents,
Yeah, we'll take care of it.
along with the board handbook, too?
That will be there. Thank you. Public comments still open? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Any further? Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Gott?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11, discuss take action on the scope of service for engineering services for A, DeSoto Field Stormwater, and B, 2015 roadway resurfacing program.
Good evening again. At our last council meeting, you approved Quentin L. Hampton and David King to provide us with a scope of services for the two projects that are included in the package, the 2015 roadway resurfacing program and the DeSoto Field Stormwater Treatment Facility. David has done that, prepared a scope of services for both these projects. I think they are very important projects. The roadway, the resurfacing program specifically, as was talked about earlier, this is not a isolated Satellite Beach issue. This is a nationwide issue, but we have to deal with it at some point in time. I sent an article this afternoon that I saw in one of the magazines that I receive as a public works director, and basically saying that the downturn in the economy has caused many cities to have this same issue. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, just that, I hear that, Satellite Beach is using the downturn in the economy as an excuse not to do anything. Well, let me tell you, that's not the reason. It's reality. And I'm sorry to get on the horse, but we've been kicking the can down the road. So with that, I will let David elaborate on his effort for the roadway resurfacing, and then we'll get into the DeSoto part.
Okay, we need to do 11A first, if we can?
Yeah, DeSoto's A.
DeSoto,
I'm sorry.
A is first.
I apologize.
That's okay, DeSoto stormwater treatment.
Okay, well, then I'll let David elaborate on that.
Good evening. Thank you. David King with Quentin Hampton Associates. The DeSoto Field Stormwater Treatment Facility, you might recall our last meeting showed a concept plan of that, how we utilize that green space to develop a stormwater treatment system that would basically treat water from the entire DeSoto Basin. The proposed work order includes typical scope of services, all in line with our continuing contract, but it is through design, permitting, and bidding and construction. There's a lot of moving parts to this one with, of course, with your swap or the field with Patrick, and as things to further develop with the county and DEP as they keep rethinking their model, their pollutant model. So I think our approach to this, if you notice, there's not a schedule listed in the scope of work. Excuse me, there isn't a schedule in there, but I think the approach is going to be that we take it slowly. We'll get into that preliminary effort, do some survey work and some geotech work to see what our options are, but let some of this other stuff fall out before we get too far into the design. But it does include a preliminary design step, which will develop that concept plan further, develop some estimated cost and some further estimate those pollutant load reductions, and I'm sure staff, that would be something that staff would want to bring back to you for consideration. So with that, any questions?
So this project for us on the DeSoto, call it the drainage, does that take care of DeSoto South? Is that going to take care of a great percentage of our issues and we need to do to meet the state requirements in that project?
You might recall, and I don't have it in front of me tonight, but we had the numbers before you last time that said how closer that takes us to our current load reductions, which are subject to change based on what happening with DEP. It does get us, it is a substantial project, it does get us a good number of percentages closer to the end goal. DeSoto, it will treat all the water from the DeSoto Basin based on what is left in the way of potential projects in the DeSoto project. This will probably be the last thing I envision us doing in the DeSoto Basin.
Thank you. Questions?
Move to approve the work order for engineering services for the DeSoto Field Stormwater Treatment Facility.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Gotz, second by Vice Mayor Montanaro. Discussion from council? No. Hearing none, open up for public comment on the agenda item 11A. Hearing none? Okay.
After thinking about Mark Abraham, Satellite Beach, after thinking about what you've been discussing about knocking out the ball field, I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't make sense. you already have, one of the hardest things to do with runoff water and drainage water is to collect it. The advantage of DeSoto is that it's already collected. It's already in a conduit. It's already flowing down to the end of DeSoto, where it's now going into a piece. By the way, does anybody know who owns that canal? From DeSoto out to the waterway that's behind the townhomes?
I believe it's in Indian Harbor.
It's split.
It's split, but who owns that land?
The land on the east side belongs to Satellite Beach. The land on the west side belongs to Indian Harbor Beach.
Okay. Has it always been that large?
Yes. As far as I know, I've been here for 25-plus years.
I'd heard from somebody it actually got cut out by the waters that were coming through the conduit and formed what it is. But anyhow, what doesn't make sense is this. You're going to create a body of water that basically duplicates what's behind those townhomes right there. I'm surprised that you don't coordinate with Indian Harbor Beach on that waterway. That's a man-made waterway that's there, because you're going to do exactly the same thing, but you're going to take out one of our ball fields. And it just doesn't seem to make sense. It seems to make more sense, if you really want to process that water, that you just simply create a mechanism, an appurtenance, that would sit on DeSoto at the end of the pipe and allow the water to flow into it, so you can take out your solids, add your chemicals to neutralize, and then just make an immediate clean water dump right into the canal. It doesn't make sense to take out the ball field. And so the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think it's just wrong. We own that land. You're going to get rid of it. You're going to turn the ball fields over to rented land, which is going to increase their costs. Is that correct? Up at the base? That's not going to cost us anything? That's free. And they can't be blocked out by another 9/11 event?
As far as we know, it can't.
But
I think you have a misconception. I think, Dave, you could help me here. We're not, the water that is flowing now doesn't meet the state requirements. That's why we're doing the project. This water, yes, it's going through the pipes, and it's mainstreaming to the Indian River Lagoon, which they tell us we can't do that.
Right. I'd rather see you put the money into an apparatus that would sit in the median, buried in the ground, which you know the way they're done. They're buried in the ground at the end of DeSoto, and don't rip up a ball field and lose all that precious land, when you can simply just treat it with a facility treatment right there at the end of DeSoto. I mean, it could be done very well at the end of DeSoto. You've already got the water captured in a conduit.
There are 3 baffle boxes already in place at the end of DeSoto that remove the solids from the water before it goes into the canal. We do have the option of, at some point in time, looking into adding some material to the baffle boxes to assist in further removing nutrients from the waterway. However, the plan to make the pond and treat the 300 acres further in a treatment train, that will further reduce the nutrients, almost neutralizing the water going into the lagoon and making make the water much cleaner than it is right now. So.
Yeah, there's existing treatment there, as Alan mentioned. There's and it was previously funded with the 319H grant. There's 3 baffle boxes that treat the water. 2 that treat the water coming in from the east, 1 from the north. They all have bypasses them. They can only treat so much. Any type of treatment, any type of technology has its limitations. Baffle boxes have their limitations. DEP sets the limits of how much credit will be granted for different types of technologies. There's actually other treatments abilities and facilities that are already in place in the areas of DeSoto. What this project will do will be able to take all that water that's either partially treated now, or some of it's actually in the south part of that basin, it's not treated at all, and treat it more fully in that pond. As Alan mentioned, the term treatment trains, that's the new buzzword, if you will, or one of the newer buzzwords, is to try to take a certain percentage. Again, each technology has its strengths and weaknesses. You tie a few of them together that have alternating strengths and weaknesses, and you get the better treatment from the entire train of these things in series. So what the gentleman was asking about was utilizing the, and I think it was brought up last meeting too, about utilizing the canal itself. Even though you have, you may own the land underneath that canal, it is, waters of the state is, whether it be a man-made or a natural canal, you wouldn't, it'd be either impossible or very unfeasible from a cost standpoint to try to utilize the canal itself, because if you took it out of the natural system that it's in, you'd have to mitigate for it. So you basically have that waterway, whatever you try to do, if you put something in that area, you would have to mitigate for that, and it's a very expensive thing. We know the manatees that utilize the area, the fish and everything else that utilize that area. So taking away land is always a significant undertaking, but it does take land to do the stormwater treatment. If we could do it in the water, then all of Brevard County would be looking at treating it in the Indian Banana rivers too. So, but we're all looking at doing landward type improvements. So.
Is that, excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Yeah. Given the technology we have now, the best use of funds, is this what is the best way to treat the water to meet the goals that the state has put forward for us?
You will get a serious amount of credit utilizing a treatment system like we're proposing. Again, the rules are changing, and we may come back to you that might have a smaller wet pond, might have a portion of it that's a dry pond with a wet pond, and as things develop with DEP, we may see some changes in that. But utilizing this property in some way, shape, or form is definitely a recommendation that we would make.
Thank you. Okay, public comment still open.
Ron Dragutis, President, Satellite Beach. The engineer's comments now are starting to come into a direction that document is not a closed document. There will be updates to all the stormwater issues going forward, but wet and non-wet ponds is a thing. There has been a study done in Tampa at the aquarium utilizing different technologies. If people are not aware of it, it's online and available as far as runoff. Additionally, there are treatment structures out there for stormwater that go beyond just a baffle box filled with some things in there to make it look like it's treating it well. There's technology actually being utilized in the state of New Jersey that handle larger loads and also do have a bypass. And they are also connected to ponds. I'm not sure, is the goal just for credits, or is the goal to truly clean up the lagoon and make this an enhanced future community? Additionally, we've got another moving target, the resiliency project. How is that going to, that's going to have to come into play in this whole planning project. You just can't build it down. So those are going to be factors. But there is technology, and I asked the council to put forth to examine other options related to this, rather than just go, here we go with a pond, and then we're caught between a rock and a hard place 10 years later. And do we need to utilize the whole ball field? Perhaps there's a way to create a ponding circular area around there so that the ball field could be at least kept, or a soccer field kept there, rather than digging a whole show over there. I think there needs to be taken a little action on looking at futuristic ways rather than going the old-fashioned way, because you know they're going to come back, and everyone's going to come back and say, well, we got to increase this. And to not knowing something about Roosevelt, I discovered there's apparently a fallout over there, Roosevelt.
We're on DeSoto. We're going to get.
Well, you're still at DeSoto.
Yeah.
So I'm not in favor of seeing this just go like this. And this is a lot of precious money for the city to absorb.
Thank you. Question. There's new technology out there every day, but it's not necessarily is that, if I'm not mistaken, does the state see that new technology yet as credits? Is that correct? Because the stuff is still in the testing stage.
Correct.
I remember we started these projects years ago, and we were one of the first cities to have baffle boxes. So the technologies is always changing. So to get the most credits we can get now and make the cleanest water possible with the allowable technology for the state, this is the way to do it for the dollar?
Yes, utilize this property, and again, the current concept is a wet pond of a certain, particular size with keeping a certain amount of green space there, again, because we want to make this not just a stormwater pond, but also an amenity that utilize for other purposes too, so, and then we have some other concepts of utilizing some special media to capture the restrict the groundwater flow out of this pond and stuff like that. So again, that's what will be further developed in the preliminary engineering stage. And again, as DEP further develops their rules and fine tunes their stuff, so when it is brought back to you, we'll have a better idea of exactly what, to what extent we want to use it as a wet pond or utilize other technologies in there. But as the gentleman was speaking, there are other technologies out there. There's inventors out there coming up with something every day. We are tasked with, or we do have DEPs for the credit reasons. We do want to utilize something that they're going to recognize.
Thank you. Public comment still open?
Dale Abrams, resident. Can you all elaborate on the impact of the reserve pertaining to this project, at least the engineering side of it? I don't know if you want to go into the whole scope of the project because we're not there yet, but what the impact is on the budget, not on the budget, but the reserve.
The staff is recommending that because the DeSoto Field Stormwater Treatment Facility scope of services for that whole project, that's the engineering of the entire project, is $92,200. We recommend start taking those funds as they come, as the work is done from city reserves, and then be replaced when we receive the financing for the project. So the likelihood that we're going to get all of the engineering done before we get our financing is pretty slim. So I'd be shocked if you see that amount of money coming out of reserves, but regardless, it'll be replaced as soon as you decide on your revenue source in the financing.
Thank you. Public comment still open? Hearing none.
Can I come back up?
No, ma'am. Any further public comment? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Council comments?
I got one thing. Good point. Has anybody got any comments about losing the ball fields?
I have. I've talked to every sports organization, and one of the gentlemen was here the other night, and they were thrilled. Because they're really not losing anything by getting the other field here. They're actually gaining. One of the big problems with ball fields is the usage is always 4 o'clock, 4:30 on when people get off. And when the time soccer and football are being played, you're losing daylight hours, and they have a practice problem. And those lights there are, a main thing. And our sports parks that we had down by the library, the long-term vision when they were first done, that we would light them because of that particular reason. So the football gentleman I had a nice talk with, he was really happy to see it. He just couldn't wait for that to happen because of lights.
Yeah, because that would be the main thing, obviously, since that's what we're talking about, that does impact those folks the most, and that's why I was asking, I was sure either you or Terry or somebody must have got some input from those who use the fields on what their thoughts are about those fields.
The thoughts are lights are beautiful. And I went by the field today. I took Mayor Schechter there, and we looked around the field. And that project actually, when you look at it, has better parking, and it puts a recreation facility in another section of our town. And I talked to the coach about kids riding bikes and that forth, and he says nobody rides bikes anymore to this thing, especially when you're wearing a football uniform and carrying helmets and shoulder pads, that there are 99% of them are driven. So you know, I think it's good from that. That's one thing we did check on first on this, and no one dislikes it. I
Mayor,
mean,
can I make one last
Yep.
comment before? I just wanted to make sure that you knew that the scope of services will be doing a survey and then a preliminary design, which will include the geotech and, you know, basically the research that goes into whether how we're going to create the project and how it's going to be engineered and constructed. And then that comes back to you for your consideration before we continue forward. So that's part of the research and making sure that this is the right project for us and things like that. We can't just, we have to basically make sure that this is going to work before we continue on with everything else. And that will come back to you. So when we make statements like we need to look into this further, this is looking into it further. So that's part of the scope of services. Secondly, this project is almost identical to one of the projects that was recommended in our stormwater master plan. It's just in a slightly different location, which is not very far away. So it satisfies that planning process, which has already been done for the entire city. So this is a recognized project in the stormwater master plan. Lastly, I think we need to make sure that everybody understands that there's different technologies for stormwater that come out every day, but that doesn't mean our timelines for satisfying our credits change. So the DEP requires us to have a percentage of nutrients removed, and we get credits for that, and that percentage we have to have done within so many years. It doesn't say when we're all satisfied with new technologies coming out. So we have to make sure that we're finished it. It takes years to engineer, to permit, and construct one of these projects. So that's why we have to start on it now.
Thank you. Further questions? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Dodd?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to 11B, scope of service on resurfacing program, Roosevelt Avenue.
Okay, since you've already heard my spiel on everything else, David can elaborate on the roadway resurfacing now.
Thank you. Before you is our proposed work order for the resurfacing program that's been discussed, of course, including the Roosevelt Avenue streetscape. It's in the work order is in conformance with our continuing contract. Again, this work order, like the last one, does include full services from design, permitting, bidding, and construction assistance. Our approach on this one will be to basically treat it as two separate projects. We believe there's probably some opportunities on Roosevelt to seek some further funding, either from transportation impact fees or from DOT, because of the concept of adding the bicycle facilities on that roadway. So we'll be developing it that way, but we will be tracking forward with the intent to be ready to award a project on July 15th, and that was based on the city manager's schedule with the funding and project cycle. So this was fairly straightforward. We've actually, in preparing the presentation at your last meeting, there was, of course, city staff worked really hard to develop a priority list on those roadways. We've worked with them to further look at that and fine-tune that a bit, but we are prepared to jump on this one fairly quickly and meet that schedule.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council?
Move to approve the work order for engineering services for the 2015 roadway resurfacing program, including Roosevelt Avenue streetscape.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Gott, second by Vice Mayor Montanaro. Discussion from council? Now, on this road that I drove down it today, some of it's concrete under there. I mean, it's just all over. And really what caused us to get here is waiting so long that the road bed has deteriorated.
Yeah, I think more than anything, from my perspective, David could probably back me up, along the edges, and you see where those longitudinal cracks are, is that the base has been compromised by rain and, you know, flooding and things like that over the years going underneath, and then it just settles out, and there's nothing to hold it up, so.
Is that the original roadbed?
That's the original roadbed, as far as I know, yeah.
Thank you. At this time, open up for public comment.
Ron Dragutis, resident Satellite Beach. The road project is coming forward, so it is my understanding that it is going to be set to go in July, everything, and the financing will be in place for all this?
We're planning on it, if that's how council wants to proceed.
So the financing should be in place by then, correct?
We will not start unless we have
Yeah,
financing
all right,
in place.
all right, yeah. And then I noticed that there's additional sums going to the engineer for conceptual drawing. That's coming out of the general fund. What, is that going to be a budget amendment, or is that going to hit the reserves potentially?
It's just like the last project, where the last scope of services that I explained, that we would be, the $96,485 is the complete cost of the engineering services. Up until what we take out of, until we get financing, we'll be taking the cost from reserves and then replacing those with the refining, when we finance the project.
But it's not memorialized the same way, unless I read it wrong. I see one of them memorialized on the paper stating that it's just coming out from the general fund, and it doesn't state that it's going to be returned. But I'll accept the verbal answer for this. This is public record that it will be returned, provided we get financing. Additionally, I'd like to ask the question, if I saw this correctly, there's a stormwater outfall on Roosevelt?
Yes.
And where is that outfall specifically?
Right across the street from the Long Doggers.
Across the street on the vacant, on the property there where it's
Next to the old boat place.
next to the old boat place. And that goes into the lagoon too, correct? All right. Then my next question is, are we looking at surfacing materials that are truly going to last the length of time or the length of the loan at minimum? Because I drive down Cassia every so often, and I see that road that's just been repaved, and I see some issues already starting, and I don't think that's maybe 3 years old.
The issues that you see on Cassia was paved with stormwater funds during that, after we finished that project. And the issues that you're seeing on Cassia right now were old cuts, now a new cut from Brevard County.
I'm not referring to the cuts. I'm not referring to the cuts. I'm referring to, there seems to be, when you drive down and you see in the sunlight little areas where there's already these lines forming.
There may be some mirror cracking, depending on where you're looking, but you're never going to prevent mirror cracking. It's never,
Well,
you know.
And then there is technology. It may be more costly up front. I've been reading papers on.
Mr. Dragutis, your time, the buzzer went off, so if you'd like to wrap it up.
I would, to look into materials to be utilized on Roosevelt that absorb the water, and/or potentially the type of material that is more conducive to avoiding global warming. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment still open? Hearing none, back to council. Further council comments? One, Alan, we've had roads that have lasted a pretty long time in the city, correct? I mean, some of the roads are 50 years old, have not been paved. So the life of our roads we're doing have lasted a pretty...
Yeah, we've been very fortunate because we really don't have a lot of traffic on our roads. The ones that are in dire need of repaving now are streets that have never been paved in 40 years. They were built in the 1970s, so 40-plus years, and now they're really in bad shape. They should have been paved a while ago, but...
And before, we did paving every 3 years. I think
Right.
we stopped like 2004, 2006, so we're in a catch-up.
Right, right.
So the
And-
materials we use and all, we get a good life out of our road material. And on the roads, when we're doing these projects, we're also taking into consideration a criteria that says stormwater needs to be done or not needs to be done on them, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Further comments? Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 12, City Council proposed workshop meeting. The handbook will be next Tuesday, February 10th, correct? Everybody?
Pardon?
February 10th is still good with you for the committee handbook?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, proposed public community meeting will be February 11th at 7.
And by the way, I'm going to back up. It is the board handbook. We are not using the word committee.
Sorry. Okay. And then February 18th will be our regular council meeting.
Correct.
Then we will have another public meeting February 26th. So that's our work for the month of February. Everybody agree? And
On the, our next regular council meeting, I'd like to see an ordinance dealing with adopting our city seal and prohibiting its unauthorized use.
Yeah, we're actually in the process of creating that ordinance now.
Can
So
that be on the next?
I think we can, yeah.
Good.
Okay. And if, again, for the regular meeting on the 18th, if there's any other agenda items that you would like on it, please see Courtney on it. Okay?
Did we determine that we were doing the second meeting in March yet? That's the meeting you're going to be out of town. I won't be here. And I brought it up at the last meeting for us to consider.
The 18th?
The 18th.
Can we look at that, because we might need that meeting for something, but let us check.
Okay.
Okay.
'Cause I was going to have Andy just do that meeting.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item.
We have public comments on agenda?
No,
No.
it's not action item.
Okay.
Okay. And if you'd like to talk to any of us or Courtney on it, feel free to do.
Two ideas.
Okay, well, please, talk with Courtney. She'll accept them. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 13, appointments to boards.
I'd like to make a comment here. Looking at the reappointments, we have Mike Chase checking his attendance. His attendance has been excellent. Philip Welsh has not shown much interest. Out of 9 meetings, he's missed 5 of them.
He's less than 50.
Yeah, what?
Can I give you input? He has on Thursdays are bad days for him, and he is actually asked to potentially be considered for PZAB, which meets on Mondays, which is a better day for him to meet.
Well, the CRA Advisory Board is one of those boards where we are reducing the number of board members. So I would not be in favor of reappointing Philip Welsh to that board. And in terms of P&Z,
You have pretty good people there.
yeah, we do. Why do we have a regular vacancy on P&Z? It's a 5-member board.
We have 2 alternate vacancies there, too.
Chris Burrows went off the board.
Chris Burrows went off the board.
Oh, he did. So, is it your understanding, Lenora, that Mr. Welsh would attend the P&Z meetings?
He confirmed that with me verbally today.
And Sissy Packard had good attendance, as did Eugene Matthews.
Okay. And then we have two new appointments, Neil and Doug, the gentleman today, Doug Glass. So, do we want to take them individually?
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Mike Chase to the CRA Advisory Board as a regular member, that we reappoint Sissy Packard as a regular member of PZAB, that we reappoint Eugene Matthews as a regular member of the Sansons Island Working Board, and that we appoint Philip Welsh as a regular member of P&Z. And shall I go on?
Yeah.
I'm on a roll.
Go ahead.
We appoint Neil Johnson and Douglas Glass as regular members of CPAB.
I have a motion by Councilman Gott. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Breimer. Any discussion from council? Hearing none, open up for public comment. Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Staff, moving on to agenda item 14, city council minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the workshop meeting on January 7th and the council regular meeting on January 7th as submitted.
I second.
A motion by Vice Mayor Montanaro, second by Councilman Osmer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dodd?
Me? Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Any further business before the board? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, staff.
Wish all my council.